Good afternoon, and thank you for joining the Pitt Alumni Association for today's What's Next Class of 2020 Career Preparation Steps to Take Now webinar. My name is Marcy Johnson, and I am the Director of Young Alumni and Student Programs for the Pitt Alumni Association. Before introducing our presenter, I just wanted to remind everyone to please use the question and answer section to ask your questions throughout Ryan's presentation. So a little bit about Ryan. He began his career at Pitt in 2004 in career services. Prior to working at Pitt, he was a mental health counselor and a high school teacher and coach. In addition to his duties as assistant director, Ryan enjoys working with undecided students. Ryan holds a BA in psychology and a PhD in counseling psychology from the University of Notre Dame. I'll turn it over to you, Ryan.
And good afternoon, good morning, wherever you might be in the country or in the world. It's my pleasure today to talk to you about the steps you can be taking now as you think about your job search, as you think about possibly graduate school, any of those kind of career decisions that you're making right now in our current economic climate. As Marcy said, my name is Ryan Sweeny and I work in the Career Center at Pitt. And just a quick shout out to all of our services in terms of, we do work obviously with current students, but we also work with alumni from the minute you graduate forever. And so if you ever need our services, please always feel free to reach out. So let's look at some of the things. There we go. Let's look at some of the things that we do in our office that are going to be important as you embark on this career search. Again, whether it is a full-time position, a full-time job, or whether it might be graduate school. So some of the basics when you think about career preparation, our office does everything. Any type of task or item that you're going to need in your career search, we help you with that. So from the very beginning, or the very basic resume and cover letter, and we review those virtually now. You can email those to our resumes@pitt.edu for assistance. I'm also going to show you a couple websites at the end where we have some sample resumes in case you're just getting started on it. But when you think about your personal profile, your personal brand, your resume is going to represent you out there, and you really want to make sure that somebody from our office reviews that so that you're doing the best you can in sort of presenting who you are, again, whether that's to a corporation or a nonprofit where you're seeking a full-time job, or to a graduate program. We also help alumni with interviewing, from the very basics of interviewing, such as what types of questions might you expect, to different formats of interviewing, perhaps a phone interview, a virtual interview on Skype or Zoom, and then potentially, maybe not right now, but in the future, an in-person interview. And we have a great software package called Big Interview, where you can virtually learn about interviewing, learn about the different interview types of questions, but also practice mock interviews right there in that in Big Interview. The great thing about this right now is that you're most likely going to have virtual interviews. So usually Skype or Zoom, possibly some other platform, but a software package like Big Interview gives you perfect preparation to see how you look on camera, to make sure everything's set up right, and then to see how you interact with the questions and how you answer those questions. We will also help you with job search strategies. So oftentimes we will talk to alumni, and one of our big questions is going to be, how are you going about this job search? What steps are you taking to find openings, to find opportunities? And so our in-house system is called Handshake. You may have utilized this when you were a student, maybe not, but everybody has an account as a student at Pitt, and that account carries over when you become an alumni, and that lasts forever. Basically, Handshake is where we basically force all of the employers that want to hire Pitt students and alumni, they have to post their jobs in our Handshake system. So we never do like a direct transaction. If an employer comes and says, can you post this out to your students? The only way we will do that is through Handshake. We won't email you that directly or anything like that. So Handshake is kind of an in-house, a Pitt-centric platform such as Indeed. Indeed is going to have hundreds of thousands of jobs. We are going to have thousands of jobs listed for Pitt alumni and for current Pitt students. You might be thinking, are there any jobs right now? Are companies hiring? And I'll talk about that a little bit later. But Handshake is going to have all these current listings. So if an employer is hiring, they're going to post that job in Handshake. And if it's posted in Handshake, it means that they haven't filled it yet. We do encourage students and alumni to utilize bigger job platforms such as Indeed and LinkedIn. You know, especially in these times, it's great to cover all your bases. But definitely these electronic means to search for jobs are going to be really valuable. And then last thing is networking. And you really can't overestimate how great networking is and how powerful it's going to be to help you find a job. And we will work with you to talk about and kind of flesh out the network that you already have established. So think about the people that you already know. Think about people that you knew growing up, your neighbors, classmates in grade school and high school, bosses, coworkers. Take it right through the University of Pittsburgh, your professors, your fellow students. And then depending on where you are in your career path right now, other networking contacts that you have established. And this is really powerful and really important because this is the one area that we find most consistently alumni neglect, and that is their network that is already out there, but they just haven't tapped into it or they just haven't fully established it to be helping them. One of the things I always like to remind people about in terms of networking is that the goal of networking or the purpose of networking is never to ask somebody else for a job. First and foremost, it's about establishing relationships. It's about building that group of people around you that are aware that you're looking for a position, that know your qualifications, and that can help connect you with things that they might find out or they might hear about. It is exceptionally rare for networking to literally result in somebody saying, here's a job, would you like to take it? That just doesn't happen, if at all. However, the power of networking, when it really works great, is that you establish networking contacts in a specific field that you're looking at, and you're able to get an interview because of your networking contacts. And that's really the power that we talk about in terms of networking. It is not going to be something where you network and somebody hands you a job, but it's going to be something really powerful where maybe 100 applicants for a specific job, by utilizing your network, you're able to get one of those 5 interviews that company holds to fill that position. So we really, again, we talk about networking a lot. We want to make sure that you're doing all those things in terms of networking. In the electronic platform, we look at things like Pitt Commons, and most people have heard about LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a great tool to network. And think of Pitt Commons as sort of the Pitt version of LinkedIn. And so a couple benefits there. It is all Pitt graduates. So these are your fellow alum. But it's also focused on Pitt majors. And so in LinkedIn, you're going to find all universities, all different types of majors, all different types of jobs. With Pitt Commons, you're going to be able to focus down on those majors that are exclusive to Pitt and the career paths that alumni may have taken. So we would strongly encourage you to utilize both Pitt Commons and LinkedIn as your sort of electronic networking. Now let's talk about a little bit a little bit about the current job market. So we've all been impacted in different ways by COVID-19. I know in the Career Center, this has been a huge topic for us, and that has really filtered down from the very top of Pitt. This is a concern for everybody at the highest levels of Pitt in terms of what are we doing in the Career Center to help our alumni find positions, find full-time jobs, find graduate school admissions, those kinds of things. And I've done a few presentations on this topic because this is a unique time, but we have had recessions in the past that mimicked this a little bit. And so we have had previous experience. And so we do know some of these techniques and ideas that are going to help you get through this time and be successful in your search. So the first thing I want to talk about is, despite what you're seeing online, despite what you're hearing from the news, companies are hiring. We know that for a fact because they're still coming to our office to post jobs in Handshake. They're still inquiring about our job fairs, and they're still contacting us directly because they want to be able to promote their jobs to Pitt students and alumni. And again, as I mentioned, that's always going to be through Handshake. But there is no lack of company out there that's hiring right now. We know this to be a fact, so don't be hung up on unemployment numbers, hiring freeze news reports, those kinds of things. There are companies that are hiring. A lot of times the process is a little different. As I mentioned, it might be more virtual, but the jobs are out there and we're going to help you find those. Second thing I'll mention is you really need to be thorough in a time like this. So you can't leave any stone unturned. So when we talk about networking, when we talk about job search, when we talk about utilizing internet resources, not just those in-person resources, you really have to cover all your bases. You have to cast that net as wide as possible. And sort of related to that, your attitude needs to be that you can't be too selective in a time like this. And being too selective can impact a number of different areas. So the first one is you can't be too selective in the job title or the position that you're looking at. You may have a goal or a dream position or job title, and in a job market like we're currently in, you may need to scale that back one level of job title or position. Don't be afraid to start in a company at a slightly lower position with the expectation that you'll be able to move up in the future. So that's one. Second one is the company. Again, you might have a dream company or a goal of working for a certain company. And in this current job market, what we would recommend is that you not only have that goal of that company, but other companies as well. And here you want to focus on the position. Maybe it's not in the dream company or the number one company, but it's a position that you know will prepare you well to move into that other company that you're more interested in. So you know you're going to take a position that is at a good level for you in a company that maybe wasn't your first choice. But in the future, year down the road, 2 years down the road, you know you're going to parlay that into applying to that dream company and hopefully getting a position in that company that was your number one choice. So really, these two kind of go hand in hand. You may have to take a position that's not perfect, that's not your number one choice. Keep in mind what company it's with and the opportunity for advancement. And you might not be able to pick a company that's perfect, but know that you'll have a position that will get your resume prepared for those future moves. And then the last one in terms of not being too selective is the location. It is really important that you open up your job search geographically. Certain industries may not be strong in certain areas of the country, but they're strong in other areas of the country. And so if that is perhaps your industry, you've got to make sure that you are applying to all of these different geographic regions where you're going to have a better chance of getting that position. And this sort of relates to the job title of the company in terms of, let's say you want to stay in Pittsburgh. You love the city, you love this area, you want to be here, but positions in your industry are stronger in other parts of the country. So again, kind of planning ahead, you're going to move to that other region of the country with the idea that in the future, you'll come back to Pittsburgh when that industry has recovered better in this area. So all of these three things together are really important to consider in terms of you can't be too selective in this job market. You've got to make sure that you're finding a position that's going to fulfill your goals, but maybe not at that top level. Professionally, it works. Geographically, it works, but they might not be the perfect fits for you at this moment, but you can look at that in the future. In terms of this current job search, we know that you're going to be looking at virtual and phone interviews. Very few companies are going to do in-person interviews. So you need to be skilled with Zoom, with Skype, and we can help you prepare for the unique challenges of a phone interview where they can't see you, and so you have to be able to share your enthusiasm and your interest in the position through your voice and them not being able to see you. And we're also looking at the fact in this current job market that a lot of companies are going to be doing these virtual job interviews, but their hiring process might be taking longer. Or maybe they're even in a hiring freeze or a hiring pause, but they're still interviewing for a position. And so we want to make sure that you're prepared for this reality, that you might be interviewing for a position, but then the job offer itself might be extended further out than you had hoped. And we can certainly help you navigate that challenge. The last thing I will say, and ironically, this is something that through my years in the Career Center, I found to be true anytime, but particularly in a time when the economy is struggling, you have to be patient. So you've got to be able to put all of this work in to your resume, to your cover letter, to your interviewing practice, applying to jobs, and then literally you have to kind of sit back and wait for the process to happen. It is really important that at this time in the economy, and frankly in the world, that you're able to be patient. That as long as you have those applications out there, as long as you can say, I've been doing all the right things, I've been doing all the things that you've recommended, then patience is going to be really crucial, because these things may take a little bit longer to come to fruition. But we know based on all of our past work that if you follow these steps, you're going to be successful. And we will work with you until that happens, until that job offer happens, or until that graduate school admission happens. All right. Now, thinking about some of our resources, I've posted here our main webpage. And honestly, if you Google Pitt Career Services, Pitt Career Center, you'll get it. But we have a number of areas on our website that can help you with some of these resources. But don't let these resources replace working with us individually. We have a great staff of career consultants who work with our alumni, depending on the different career field that you're interested in. So we have career consultants that work with engineers, that work with STEM, that work with liberal arts, that work with social sciences, you name it, we've got a career consultant for it. So these resources are phenomenal, but they can never replace working individually with one of our career consultants in your career journey. So some of the different resources that we have, if you go to our main homepage, you can see it listed there, studentaffairs.pitt.edu/CDPA/. Click on the resources and FAQs button, and that's where you'll find two things. One, the Cooter Career Journey, in case you're still wondering what career might be a good fit for you. This is a great career assessment that you can use. You can look at your results, and you can look at all the resources that they provide. We also have Big Interview contained in the resources and FAQs portion of our website. And then specifically this year, and we started this website prior to April, so we called it the Seniors button, but now we know you're an alum, so that's okay. It's still called the Seniors button, but we basically pooled a whole bunch of resources for who were then seniors, but we're going to be graduates very soon, so that that's really accessible and really easy to find. That is my presentation today. And I know we are going to open it up to questions. And I certainly can help answer questions.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. So this is a portion, if you have any questions for Ryan, he will be happy to answer them. So I will give it a second or two to see if any questions come in.
And just a quick note, this can be a general question about career stuff, or it could be a personal question that you're looking at a specific career area and you're just wondering about that. I'm happy to answer that.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for the thorough presentation. Okay, how do we access Handshake once our student computing account is inactive?
Yeah, excellent question. So when you go into as a student, you would log in through the portal. As an alum, you actually want to go to joinhandshake.com, and then it'll have instructions there. It'll lead you right through to log in as an alum. Your account stays exactly the same. All the information in it is the same. We don't delete anything or change anything. Your account just gets transitioned right into an alumni account. And let me just throw out real quick, if you ever have any trouble with Handshake, you can always email our main careers email, which is just careers@pitt.edu.
Great. And we can follow up with everyone as well with an email with that information and Ryan's contact information.
Absolutely.
Any other questions from our participants? Oh, okay. Can we please talk more about tapping into our personal network?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a couple of ideas on that. A little bit of an old school idea is literally to get out like a giant sheet of paper and kind of start with you in the middle and then branch off of that with who's in your network. And so, but again, you really want to be thinking about people that are really close to you, that have been close to you throughout your life, and getting those down either virtually if you want to do it on your computer, or if you want to do it on a piece of paper, but making sure to get those names down. Then the next step in that process is to write down what industry that they're in or what job position that they have. So the first step is going to be to flesh out that entire list of the people's names. The second step is going to be to identify what they do. A lot of the people, you're going to know that right offhand. Some of the people that you're not, you can Google their name. You can go to LinkedIn to look for them. Sometimes you have to do a little snooping around to try to see what they do currently, what their current job is. But oftentimes you're going to know, or you'll be able to find out. And I mean, again, this includes all of your relatives as well. But the reason why I feel like this sounds so basic, but it's a common story for students and alumni. If I'm meeting with them and I start talking about their network, 99% of the time we find somebody in their network that they know pretty well who does the job that they're interested in. and they just hadn't made that connection prior to that meeting. And so it's really just putting the effort in to establish that. And in the case where nobody in your network is in the job or career path that you're interested in, that's where something like Pitt Commons or LinkedIn can come into play. With LinkedIn, you're always going to be able to find somebody in that career path. We always suggest trying to find somebody that went to Pitt. So Pitt Commons is going to be a great resource, but not everybody who graduated from Pitt is going to be in Pitt Commons yet. But if they have a LinkedIn profile and you've got that natural connection of being from Pitt, there's a better likelihood that they'll reconnect with you. But we do also warn alumni, you'll get a lot of no answers or people that are not interested in talking to you via LinkedIn. It just happens. But there's hundreds of thousands of people in there, so just keep trying and it will happen. But be ready for the disappointment of, geez, this person looks perfect. I'd love to get to talk to them, and you never hear from them again. Just keep going. Keep looking for other people. And this, again, is something that we could do in an appointment with you. So you come in with a career path in mind, and we would love to sit down with you and help you work out that whole networking plan.
Great, thank you. The next question, is there any site that you recommend to use over others when looking for jobs?
Well, so a couple things I would say there. One is, if you're staying in the Pittsburgh area, Handshake is the best. Not only are they looking for Pitt students and Pitt graduates, but the majority of those jobs are going to be in Western Pennsylvania. If you're looking for outside of Western PA, certainly letting us help you with that process. But we recommend Indeed over any of the other national job search engines. We don't have any affiliation with them or any sponsorship with them, but we just feel like in our experience that has given students the best links. And then I will throw this out there: if you're not in Western PA, you're in some other part of the country, it's always a good idea to go to the career services websites of the universities in that area. So if you were in Philadelphia, if you came in and talked to me and you said, I want to find a job in Philadelphia, we actually have a lot of good jobs in Handshake in Philly, because that's kind of our #2 region. But I would also tell you, go to Temple's website and go to their career services website, because they're going to have resources just like we do for the Philly area. And that could be anywhere in the country. It could be Texas, it could be California. So I would highly recommend that as well.
Great, thank you. The next question is, what is a good way to revive old relationships or connections that we haven't talked to in a while?
Yeah, great question. I think it's just to acknowledge that and to start slowly. So obviously, let's say it's a professor that you had 4 or 5 years ago. Just send them an email reconnecting with them, letting them know what you're up to. But at that point, I probably wouldn't send them a resume. I probably wouldn't, I wouldn't jump right into the process of trying to get them to help you. I would just try to reconnect and say, just wondering how you're doing. Here's what I'm up to, and just kind of rekindle that relationship with them. But that's a tough one. I think the other piece to that, though, is the people that have been important in your life are going to want to reconnect with you. So it may seem weird, like I haven't talked to that professor in 4 years. My experience has been that those professors, those bosses, those coworkers, they're really thrilled to hear from you. So if they had an impact on you 4 years ago and you haven't really connected with them in a while, they're going to love the idea of reconnecting with you. Again, just from personal experience, working with lots and lots of students and alumni over the years.
Thank you, and thank you so much for those questions. If there is no other questions, which I will give it a couple more seconds in case there's any last minute questions, before we let you know of a couple more resources that you can capitalize being part of the Pitt network. Okay. Oh, one came in. Let's see. I'm an incoming international student. May I know when we would be the right time to start the job hunt, as international students are bound to a visa deadline after graduation? And are all job postings open to international students? Great question.
Yeah, great question. So the first part of that question, it would be, it's never too early to start. Once you get to campus, whether it's virtual or in person this year, you can access our services. So that would be the first thing, is that we encourage first year students that if you're anxious about this and want to start with this process, come in. We'll start immediately. The second question, in terms of are all jobs also for international students, the answer unfortunately is no to that. However, we will help you navigate what companies hire international students and what companies don't, so that you can focus your search on those companies that are open to that. And that's really a tough area, and it's an area that we constantly work with companies on, so that they understand the whole international student process, and even technical stuff like OPT and CPT, choices and opportunities you have when you graduate that companies can tap into, because sometimes it's just a matter of the company not knowing what that process is like.
Great question. And we have another one. Can we have a career counselor look over cover letters and resumes for every job we apply to, or is that excessive?
Nope. I guess I'll say it. Well, might as well. Nothing is excessive. No, seriously, we want to help you. So if you've sent in a resume and we've looked it over and said this is solid, and then you have a specific job that you're applying to and you want us to look at it again, we will absolutely do that. And cover letters are the same way, because you really want to tailor both of those to each individual job application that you're sending out. The only time that they would be identical is if it was literally like the exact same job description for two different companies. And then the only thing that would change would be the company name in both of them. But no, we are here to help you. There's no such thing as excessive.
Great questions. And thank you again to Ryan. We did want to also let everyone know that there are a bunch of opportunities provided to you. So if you're interested in networking and growing your Pitt alumni network, join us tonight and tomorrow for Panther to Panther networking. So tonight, Wednesday, June 17th, we're going with accounting and finance, communication, journalism, publishing, film, general and emergency medicine, and then IT and computer and information science. You can just go to pi.tt/P2PCC and register for tonight or tomorrow, Thursday. We will be doing it again with engineering folks, alumni in the government, nonprofit, public service, international affairs, health and rehab science, sports medicine, nursing and public health. Again, those are at pi.tt/P2PCC. We did have one last night, so if you don't see your specific network, that is why. And then we also want to let you know that we have Julius Boatwright coming up on July 8th to talk to us about coping with COVID, so supporting mental wellness during a pandemic. And that registration is provided to you there. Again, we want to thank you from the Pitt Alumni Association for joining us. Until then, stay safe, stay healthy, and hail to Pitt.